You're welcome back to Joy News Prime with me, Arabo Kumsin, and joining me now is Sandra Afenu. And there's still a lot more reactions coming through after the announcement by the PURC.
And you get to pay more for electricity bill, but not for water, not for now.
Oh,
water is not part? No, water is not part, it's just electricity.
Okay.
So we're getting some explanation from the committee as to whether the calculations, what went into it, and how we arrived at a 11.7 figure.
Exactly. It would be good to understand how we arrived at that figure.
All right. Hello, good evening. My name is Sandra and I'm here for business. The Private Enterprise Federation has described the 11.7% increase in utility tariff as unacceptable. President of PEF, Nana Osei Bonsu, has warned that the hike in utility prices will further increase the cost of goods and services in the coming weeks. He's been speaking to Joy Business on the implication of this on the private sector.
The cost of power is too high for private sector, and we've been complaining that nobody's going to make money if based upon the cost of energy as it is now. So to bring around another increases of in the tariffs is going to exacerbate the already precarious conditions of private sector businesses who are operating under heightened high cost of doing business. Previously, what the Federation had done was to engage government that before we grant any type of increases to the utilities or utility companies, let's go review or vet their cost structure. How much did it cost them to produce at the efficient level? When I say efficient level, meaning that if they need 2 people, why are they having 5? If they need 2 trucks, why do they have 10? So look at all these things and see that if the price or the cost of production is based upon an efficient application of the resources, then any increases that they request should be granted, because at that time, that is for cost recovery. But when they have excesses, waste in the system, and you grant them the additional tariff increases, you glorifying inefficiencies. And that is where we stand. That government should take independent group of inspectors or team.
First of all, you said it's going to affect the private sector. Is this going to emanate into a cost build-up, high increase in goods and services?
Well, every business every investor is in a business to make money. So if my cost structure keep going up, what do? Price increases, and consumers are going to be the victims of the price increases. But as of now, businesses have not quantified or calculated this energy mix. It's just been announced as to how it's going to affect their cost structure. Definitely, they're not going to be able to absorb all the costs and make prices equitable as they are now.
Meanwhile, energy analyst Kojo Poku seems to agree with the tariff increase by the PURC. He shared his thoughts earlier on the marketplace with Emmanuel Abuajiriafe.
The past, gas was $9 per MMBTU. It was reduced last year to 7.8. That was when we had the reduction which everybody was happy about. Now, going forward, government has further negotiated the $7.8 to $6.08. So those plants that are using gas, they are getting the gas cheaper. Now, one of the biggest burdens for the government was the capacity charge, which is a take or pay. Whether we use these power plants or we don't use them, there was a certain amount of money that government was to pay. Now, government has been able to get some of these companies like Car Power, like AXA, like Sinet, and Asogli to reduce the capacity charge. So the burden on government has also reduced. Now, taking all this into consideration, the savings that government has made looking at Car Power alone is over $500 million. When Car Power now moves from Tama to Takoradi, the savings even goes higher. So that is what has translated into the 11.17 that we see now.
Joining me via Skype is the chairman of the technical committee of the PURC and also executive director of KITE, Ishmael Ejekum-Hene. Thanks so much for your time. So what went into the calculation of the new figures?
Good evening to you. Right.
Yes, I was asking what went into the arrival of the new figures.
A lot of things went into that. I'm sure you are aware that there is a tariff setting methodology that basically invite proposals from all the stakeholders in the value chain. And then at the end of the day, you look at what we consider to be prudent costs and ultimately determine what we call the annual revenue requirement that the utilities will need to be able to deliver the quantity or amount of electricity that is needed to be produced and transmitted within a period of time. So having done all of that and looking at generation cost, transmission and distribution, we will then determine what the rate should look like. But in terms of what actually went into this increase, there are two major factors. The exchange rate is one, and also inflation. You know, there are two components. One of the cost centers is actually denominated in USD, and there are also CD denominated costs. For the USD costs, mainly the PPAs and the power generation side, the utilities or the distribution companies are going to pay in US dollars, but they collect the money in cedis.
Right.
In 2018, the exchange rate that was used in the tariff was 4.43. This year, we all know where the exchange rate is. It's around, so what we use average exchange rate of 5.05, and also end of year inflation of about 8.9. So looking at the so that's when mainly what went into the upward adjustment in the time.
All right, so we have it in percentage terms now. That's 11.7. I'm sure consumers will be wondering how much would that translate when it comes to bills when we have to pay.
Well, it's across board. So you only have to, if you take your consumption and you apply those rates to what you used to pay, and that becomes, we haven't computed that, but the Gazette will come out shortly, and you see but it's 11.17 across board. So one would expect that averagely your utility bill should be going up by that quantum, unless you suddenly start consuming more. That's the magnitude. But for the industrial consumers, a major policy shift has been introduced, the fact that the demand charges are no longer going to be applicable. That's something that they've complained a lot about, and with this decision, they're going to see their bills coming down, because the demand charges have been converted into energy charges, and we expect them to make some savings as far as electricity bills are concerned.
All right, so quick one, in that statement, the special low tariff has been excluded from the current calculation. What does this really mean?
So that's what I was trying to explain. You know, previously, what we call the special low tariff customers, there are three categories. They have the medium, low voltage, medium voltage, and high voltage. These consumers, they had the electricity bill in two parts: the energy charge, which is the cost per kilowatt hour, and the demand charge, which is also the maximum demand charge. At the moment, in this Gazette, we're saying that the maximum demand charge, which they've been complaining, because it's just based on your maximum demand. So even the month, you even hit that demand once or for 3 seconds, that's what you pay, and so that has been scrapped.
Right.
So that's what we meant by that. So we expect that it's going to reflect in some savings as far as industrial consumers are concerned.
All right, finally, a quick one. Why was water excluded, and when are we likely to see a hike in water prices as well?
The statement said in due course.
And when is due course?
It should be soon, not long after this announcement. Water tariff will also be announced, because we still having final consultations, and then it will be announced.
All right, grateful for your time. Ishmael Ejekumhene is the chairman of the technical committee of the PURC. But that's how we wrap up for the first half of business. I'll be back after 8 p.m. with the day's running story. Stay tuned for the rest of the news and show.